Apostadamus presents 2K mods.
Hey everybody, it's Apostadamus back with yet another modding tutorial for WWE 2K16 on the PC. This time we're going to shift from the beginner's guide into a more advanced tutorial on how to edit Pofo files. Lately I've received a lot of requests from viewers wondering how to change some of the NXT superstars that have been released in both Aude Aelith and PH Guys NXT packs, how to use them without having to rely on Possum's Pack Plus every single time they launch the game. So basically in this tutorial I'm going to show you guys how to change and edit the CH number of these characters, hex edit them so they work properly, and then alter and edit the Pofo of each character to reflect those changes so they work in the game without having to use Pack Plus. So before we start, you're going to need 4 things. 2 spreadsheets and 2 programs. You're going to need Possum's 2K16 file list that contains a data dump of all the content in the game, as well as a master list of all the mods' CH numbers. That's basically the Bible for what all modders go by. It is the de facto status quo for naming conventions in WWE 2K16. So you need that, and you also need Possum's other spreadsheet, WWE 2K16 string, which will provide you with the actual string addresses for those naming conventions that you'll need to use when we use Waverider's data editor, which is one of the programs you're going to need, as well as HXD, a hex editing program. Don't worry, if you haven't hex edited before, we're doing very simple things, literally changing 3 numbers, that's it. Alright, so let's get into things first of all by determining which character we're going to replace in the game. Luckily, you have a lot of slots for a lot of modded characters that you're probably not going to use. Chances are, if you want to install these NXT guys, you're probably not using a WCW or WWF or ECW roster alongside of this. Chances are you're probably just using the main modern roster. And in that case, you have a lot of free space to play around with. In this tutorial, I'm going to focus on installing one half of American Alpha, Chad Gable. So we see within the established modding architecture that Chad Gable is CH175, which requires Pack Plus. So we need to find a modded slot that doesn't require Pack Plus that we're not using. So when looking through here, I'm not using any WCW guys with this save. So it makes the most sense for me to replace Conan with Chad Gable and replace La Parka with Jason Jordan. So I'm going to be changing CH175 into CH617, replacing Conan with Chad Gable. The first step of the process is simply renaming both variants to 617, so just right-click on 175.02 and 175.04 and rename both of those. The reason why you see 2 files in there, one is the entrance attire, one is the in-ring attire. Once you have those renamed, we're going to go ahead and open each one up in HXD, and then you're going to scroll down on the right side until you see the 3 letters EMD. That's EMD. You know, it'll be EMD. All you want to do is simply click in front of the 175 and change that to 617. Click in front, type over. 617. Under no circumstances are you to hit space or delete. If you hit space or delete inside of a hex editor, you will catastrophically mess up your file, alright? So you type over, you do not hit space or delete. Alright, now save that and we'll do the same exact thing for 04. Alright, so we open that in HXD, scroll down to EMD, click in front and rename to 617 instead of 175. Click save and job done. We've successfully hex edited both files. See, nice and simple, completely painless. Hex editing on this level, really simple. Now it's time to get into the actual Pofo editing phase of this tutorial. So we're going to fire up Waverider's data editor. Then we're going to click on Load Pofo File. We're going to find that 175 Chad Gable Pofo file. Load it up, and then in the drop-down menu here, we're going to scroll down until we get to 617, Conan's Pofo number, and then we're going to select that to be this Pofo's default number. It's very easy. That's all you have to do to change the assigned Pofo number. All right? Just scroll down until you find it. It'll be nice. You notice they're all nicely labeled in conjunction to what they're named in the string file and in Possum's chart. It's a very easy, very user-friendly process. So once we have that selected to Conan's Pofo instead of Chad Gable's Pofo, now we need to make sure that the string name is correct as well. These 4-digit boxes underneath here all pertain to the naming convention of the Pofo. So we're going to go back in to Possum's 2K string spreadsheet. You see here it has the modded addresses and the 4-digit are all to the side. I use LibreOffice, which makes finding these things extremely easy, as I can just click down here in this box, type Chad Gable, hit enter, and it will bring me to the exact spot where Chad Gable's ID number is listed. And here we see it is 6A9B. Alright, 6A9B. So we're going to remember those 4 digits. We're going to bounce back over to Waverider's data editor. Almost every single time you're doing this, given the fact that you're editing a Pofo file that's already been created, you're just changing the number of it, chances are most of this data will already be in here, already be added to the data editor for you. I just highly recommend verifying all of that information before you go installing the Pofo into the game so you don't run into a situation where things are just a mess, alright? So we'll make sure all of those are named 6A, 9B, and they are, so we can move on to the very next step. Alright, this one in particular is really a cool feature of the data editor. So I've also had the question from people, how do I delete a character I've added to the game? Here's your answer. Inside the Pofo editor here, load up their Pofo file and select Locked. That will remove the character from all the menus in the game. Then you can go ahead and delete that wrestler's pack file with no ill repercussions. Sorry about that little tangent, just wanted to drop that little nugget of information in there. So what you're going to want to do is basically going to want to make sure the mod you're installing is unlocked to begin with. And in the next drop-down window, you're just going to want to choose between one of these. Really doesn't matter, honestly. I would default to having it listed as a downloaded superstar just because that's what the bulk majority of the Pofo files you're going to be using are already preset as. So unless you're planning on going through and editing every single Pofo of every single wrestler you install, you might want to just leave it by default in the downloaded superstars rather than in the regular superstars section, just for aesthetic purposes and ease of use. Beyond that, the next thing in line, you have your show options. You can set it to whatever you want. There's a vast litany of them. Obviously, you can change your character height, their weight. You can get all that work done right here in this one concise spot without having to do any of it later on inside the game. So here we'll set Chad Gable's attributes here. Make sure that he's a teamwork specialist of the highest degree. Make sure that he has a level 3 technician. Give him level 2 resiliency here. Definitely has to have diving pin and regular pin given the grand amplitude finisher. And I like to give every guy ring escape and rope break just to add some parity and symmetry to the game. You see on the right hand side you can change all the actual physical attributes of the character to affect their overall rating. Waverider's data editor allows you to do everything to a Pofo file that you could possibly want to get things set up to your ideal specifications. Now once that's done, you're going to hit Save Pofo File. When you hit Save Pofo File, you're going to want to make sure you're saving that Pofo file as the right name. You don't want to find yourself having just edited Chad Gable's 175 Pofo file to Conan's 617 slot, only to find out that you saved the Pofo file as 175, and now you've messed up your game completely. So you want to make sure that when you're saving the Pofo file, you're saving it to that adjusted CH name, all right? So you're going to make sure this Pofo file is saved as 617 Pofo instead of 175. And to verify that and to install the Pofo file as you normally would with the Visitor X's custom character tools, you're going to find all your edited Pofo files that you saved with the data editor inside Pofo folder, inside of the data editor folder, wherever you've saved that on your computer, as seen here. Here's the full array of edited Pofo files I've created for WWE 2K16. Now that that's in place and I've already installed Chad Gable, I'm not going to walk through that step in this video or else this would be half an hour long. If you're new to modding and you're watching this video first, go back and watch my beginner's tutorial to modding. That'll walk you through the actual installation process of the mod of what this Pofo file represents. I'm going to fire up the game here and we're going to take a look and see how well Chad Gable installed into the game over top of Conan. And here we see him coming out. All the naming conventions are right. His name's right in the selection screen. His name's right in the entrance. And his name is right in the matchup screen. And you see him taking on Austin Aries, who I installed in place of Sylvester Stallone. So you have a lot to play with, a lot of room to install various characters that require pacplus in slots that don't require pacplus. You know, you just have to change a few things here and there, but all in all, it's very easy, and I hope I've done a good job illustrating that to you guys today. As usual on my channel, there's no such thing as a stupid question, so feel free to ask anything, and I'll try to respond in a prompt manner. And up next, I'm working on 2 more tutorials for Cave Waverider's data editor, including a moveset tutorial for those interested in adding in additional entrances and trons to the game without replacing things, as well as showing you guys how to switch around which superstars in the game have the 10 attire alternate unlock. So I hope you guys and gals found this video helpful, and I'll be back really soon with some more, as well as the next episode of 2K Mods Weekly. Dun-dun-dun-dun.